How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dodgeclaw here again today, back once again with another look at another new issue of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest magazine. This is issue 3. First off, is it still good value? This issue is the first full priced issue at $7.99, and yeah, it's still good value. The stuff you get inside it, you only get one sprue of Primaris Reavers and a lead belcher paint. So that's around about £12–13 worth of stuff if you bought it directly from GW, and you get it for $7.99, so you can't argue with that, really, can you? The next part of it is the fluff. The little bit of information you get in the start, it's quite interesting. I wasn't expecting to see any other factions from 40k featured in this magazine. However, there's a very brief introduction to the Necrons that gives you a little story about how one of their tomb worlds was waking up and the Raven Guard had some Reavers down there, and they were instrumental in defeating the Necrons when they woke up from their slumber. So I thought, that's a nice little mini introduction to one of the other races of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So it's pretty cool. A nice little way of expanding your horizons slightly without, obviously they're not going to give you any Necron miniatures in this magazine subscription, but it's a nice little way of expanding your horizons and making you aware that the Warhammer 40,000 universe is massive, and there's a lot more going on than what you'll read about in this magazine. And the miniatures you get aren't the only miniatures you get. Obviously, that's the aim of the magazine, is to get people excited about Warhammer 40,000, newer hobbyists, excited about Warhammer 40,000, and then so excited that they can't wait for all these miniatures that they're going to collect over the course of the subscription. So they'll want to go into Games Workshop, they'll see all the other miniatures and be like, oh my god, what are those green guys there? The orcs, they look amazing, I'll get them. So, that's obviously part of the reason they're going to be, I would have thought, introducing different races throughout the various issues. It's a really brief introduction. Like I said, it's just a little story about some Reavers taking on some Necrons. So it just gives you a really brief introduction to the Necrons and their motives for getting involved in so many fights across the galaxy, really. You may remember from the last episode where I reviewed issue 2, I couldn't remember for the life of me where the names of these of the Death Guard in the last issue were, where I'd seen them. It's on the assembly page. You have them at the bottom of each of the little assembly instructions. So the Reavers, I'll introduce you to the Reavers. So it's Sergeant Castius, not Cassius, but Castius. And then there's two Reavers, Reaver Atreus and Reaver Palom. So onto the painting guide, very much the same as the previous issues. Only in this issue you get an extra paint. So it's showing you where to put the black, where to put the blue, where to put the gold, and where to put the silver, the lead belcher in this case. The Death Guard green isn't used in this because you wouldn't want to be seeing Death Guard green on an ultramarine miniature, would you? But then it flicks over to the following page and it tells you where to put the silver, your new paint, on both the Death Guard and the Primaris Intercessors. So really useful stuff. Back to the battle section of the book, the magazine, where it gives you a brief tutorial on combat, so hand-to-hand combat. So you may remember from the last issue, it was all about movement and shooting, and there was no close combat round. So they introduced the fight, the charge and the fight phase into the turn sequence here. So it becomes a four sequence turn sequence, where before it was only 2, just move and shoot. And they introduced it really simply as well, and I think the explanations for everything are quite clear and easy to understand for the newer hobbyist. One thing I like, though, I've probably mentioned it in other videos, I like a narrative-driven battle. When I'm watching battle reports on YouTube, on mini wargaming and stuff like that, I like a bit of narrative. I'm more likely to watch the narrative campaigns that mini wargaming do than just their one-off bat reps. So in this magazine, it's a continuing battle. In the second issue rather, when they introduced the Death Guard had boarded an ultramarine ship and were trying to gain a foothold on it, basically. And then the intercessors had to meet them on a training deck and try and get them off the ship or kill them. And now in this one, the Reavers have been sent to seal a breach or to prevent a Death Guard ship from docking with the Ultramarine ship, basically, and enabling the Death Guard to get loads of reinforcements. So in order to do that, they have to beat the Death Guard and secure an objective. So it's a really nice little narrative twist. So it's giving you a few different flavours of ways to play 40k without actually going into great detail about it. It's just creating that idea of setting yourself up with a little narrative. You know, what are the motivations of these Space Marines, which I really like. I think that's essential for inspiring you hobbyists to want to get these miniatures built and painted. That's what I was always sort of drawn into as a youngster with the hobby. So, on to the next page. So there's rules updates. It gives you details of weapon skill as well as ballistic skill that were in the last issue. So weapon skill for the Reavers and for the Death Guard, and also to wound. So to wound in shooting and to wound in close combat for both the Death Guard and the Reavers. But there's no close combat details for the intercessors, which is interesting. I imagine they'll have a more complete data sheet for each unit next issue. So on these next few pages, it breaks it down for you really simply. There's a rules update, and it talks you through a charging tutorial, and then it talks you on a whole page. A whole page is dedicated to Overwatch. That's how I think it's to avoid any confusion. They're basically giving you a scenario on each page with pictures to make it nice and simple. And then there's a fighting tutorial, and it's got a fight sequence as well. So choose a unit, roll to hit, weapon skill, roll to wound, roll to save. And then again, same as last issue, after the tutorials are done, it gives you extra rules. There's a more narrative feel to the extra rules as well, where the Reavers have to secure an objective from the Death Guard. In order to do that, they've got 6 turns to try and get into base contact with this objective. And that's pretty much it. Oh, there's more rules as well, actually, before I say that's it. That's not it. Don't listen to me. Don't trust me. Never trust me. Never. So, the Power Fist, the Plague Knife, and the Combat Knife are all introduced in this. Not, again, you may remember from the last episode, they're not quite the same rules all the time as are in 40k. They keep it really simple for you. So the Power Fist, instead of saying it's strength times 2, they don't have a strength characteristic in this. They have a to hit and to wound characteristic. So to wound a Primaris Reaver, you have to roll a 2+ with a Power Fist, and the Reaver doesn't get an armor save. Rather than say minus whatever on the armor, it just says they don't get an armor save. The Plague Knife gives you re-rolls if you roll a 1. So you're hitting on 3s, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, I think, with the Plague Knife. Let's just double check that. Weapon skill 3+. No, so you're hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. And the Combat Knife is you get extra attacks, same as it would be in regular 40k. Yeah, so it's a pretty good issue, I thought. I'll be playing through that scenario because I've got to stick a few more colours on my Death Guard and then see how well the paint stays on, because I want to give these a jolly good handling and maybe drop them a few times and stuff to see if, as people have suggested and as I suspect as well, if the paint will rub off on the edges, any protruding edges. Oh, I've done a slight conversion on this little fella, by the way, just so I can impress you now with my amazing converting skills. Totally did it by accident. He's lost his spike, but I took advantage of that. I got my mould line remover and I scraped off where the bump was, and it just looks like a slightly different, very slightly different little Plague Marine now to what the other guys will look like when I get issue 6. I think in issue 6, I'm sure it tells you in here, unless I read it on a page somewhere. I might have read it on the Warhammer 40,000 Conquest Facebook page. Issue 6 is coming with 3 more easy to build Death Guard. Issue 5 is coming with Lieutenant Calcius. This fella here. It looks like he's got Ultramarines logos embossed on him, and there's an Ultramarines logo on a sword. So what I'll do with that miniature, I think, is convert him to be an Imperial Fist. And the way I'll probably do that is take some arms off of a Primaris Intercessor and attach a chain sword at the end of one of his arms, probably, because that gives you the Imperial Fists tend to prefer chain swords because their Primarch Dawn wielded a chain sword. So in my mind, at least, that creates that narrative link. So I'll probably convert him with a chain sword and a pistol of some sort, maybe. Although he's got a holstered pistol by the looks of it anyway, so I don't need to do that. And then file down the Ultramarine symbol on the knee pad and the shoulder pad, and give him a nice big fist on the shoulder pad as he desires, as I desire. So the next issue will be Poxwalkers and Bugman's Glow, which is great. And it doesn't say you get any paint with issue number 5. I'd be interested to see whether you do, but it looks like you might not. Does it say anything about the paint on here? No. So yeah, that is a 15. Well, theoretically, this is a £15 miniature. This Lieutenant Calcius. So maybe that's where they're going to start saving money by not giving you paint in every issue, and you might just get paint in issues where the value of the miniatures is around £10, but if they go 50% above £10, so £15, let's say, then you won't get the paint, perhaps. One more thing I better not forget to point out before I leave you is this. Hopefully that's focusing. I can only assume it is focusing. I'm going to hide behind this to make sure it does focus. Okay, so if you couldn't see that, I'll tell you what it is. So the Conquest, it's the barcode, and it gives you the prices on the barcode. Now the prices, it's got UK $7.99, Australian dollars $19.99, including GST, which I'm guessing either stands for Goods Service Tax or Gross Sales Tax. I don't know which it stands for. And New Zealand dollars $19.99 as well. So hopefully that's an indication that it's going to be more widely available in the coming weeks, months. Hopefully within the next year it's going to be at least in Australia and New Zealand. Fingers crossed for everyone that may want to get their hands on it. Yeah, so on that hopeful note, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.